for the fighters to come to the Congo. So we see how this, not just the fact that we had a president who decided to put forth the money, but also the fact that he was able to draw the rest of the world to focus, to have that focus on his own country, and only that on the African continent as a whole. Now, before going into the significance of the commercial value and the start of this globally captivating sport event in the world, outside of the FIFA World Cup and the Olympic Games, summer or winter ones, we want to take a look at the major players for the event. These are Ali, and I just mentioned the President Mobutu Seseko, the ex former, the late President Mobutu Seseko, and George Foreman and Don King. So the characters here are Don King, Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, and President Mobutu Seseko. These are the Catholics. These were the individuals that came together to create this major event, this groundbreaking event in sporting history. One thing I like to say though is that you can look at it whichever way you want to, but here were four black men from different backgrounds, from different upbringing, who had risen from their ashes of obscurity to commanding a grand stage that centered, brought the rest of the world's attention to one space at one point in time, at one moment in time. As an African sports media entity, this is a special significance because it's like I said, it's a first major global sporting spectacle that took place on the African continent, and it's historic. It's historic because on many levels, and none of that can be glossed over. One thing I want to take a look at before I start, we'll take a look at each individual that played a part in this whole thing. Of these four men, is the title of the event, Rumble in the Jungle. Now, obviously, we all know, so most of you all who are in business, most times when you start a venture, you might come up with a name, and eventually either the name sticks and stays, or there might be some evolution to it over time. Some things will change, and then they will be adapted, and then eventually, whatever it is that gains consensus will be the one that's agreed upon. So there's an article that talks about the title, the Rumble in the Jungle, and how it was arrived at. And so this is from an article written on USA Today for some years back, and it says that it's started from slave ship to the Rumble. We were first going to call it From Slave Ship to Championship, said Lloyd Price, who worked with promoter Don King on the event. I thought that would have been a tremendous idea because of the event itself. And what the intent of it was to take a lot of African Americans back to Africa who had never been there. Price was in charge of pre-fight concert featuring the likes of James Brown, B.B. King, the Spinners, and a host of black music stars headed back to their ancestral roots. But Hank Schwartz, a partner in the company that owned the promotional rights and was televising the fight, nixed the title. Hank thought that we would not get a world audience by saying From Slave Ship to Championship, Price said. So where did the Rumble in the Jungle come from? Price traces it back to Drew Boudini Brown, one of Lee's assistant trainers and cornermen, who Price remembers saying, "Rumble, baby, rumble." And then Price recalled Ali just said, "Rumble in the Jungle." And that's how the name was arrived at. So that's a little tidbit in terms of factoids for this event, and a number of great stuff really to be learned from this. And I said I was going to let me give a little background on the commercial value of this whole thing. It says the fight was broadcasted live pay-per-view on closed circuit television, also known as state of the television, to venues across the world. The fight had recorded estimated 50 million viewers on closed circuit television worldwide, grossing an estimated $100 million, which inflation adjusted to today's value will be $510 million. In the United States, they say the fight had an estimated 3 million closed circuit viewers in 400 venues, with tickets sold at $20, inflation adjusted $100 today, grossing $60 million. Inflation adjusted was at $300 million in the United States alone. The promoters and fighters received over half of the U.S. closed circuit revenue, generating an income of at least $30 million for the promoters and fighters. Ali and Foreman were paid $5 million each. In total, including closed circuit and free television, the fight was watched by an estimated television audience of 1 billion viewers worldwide, about a quarter of the world's 4 billion population in 1974. It was the most watched television broadcast at the time. This included a large television audience in the United Kingdom, where the fight was watched by 26 million viewers on BBC One, nearly half of the UK's 58 million population in 1974. So, like I said, nothing of this nature can be lost in translation or neither glossed over. This was massive at the time, and given the fact that at the time, what was really global in nature in terms of sports was either the Olympics or the FIFA World Cup, which were like the marquee event. And for Africa, which was just coming, I mean, like I say, like I said earlier, a lot of African countries were just about getting their independence in the 1960s and 70s. So we were not looking at major events at the time anywhere in Africa, So I think it was, in fact, following this when there was Festac in Nigeria, well, first of all in Senegal and then eventually in Nigeria. So we can see how Rumble in the Jungle it basically has this has created this niche. This has notched itself in the history of sports in Africa as a whole. Now, who were these individuals? Ali, most of you all know, is this world famous boxing heavyweight champion that ruled the boxing world for years and years. And it was significant in so many regards because it was not just a boxer, but was a social revolutionary. He was someone who stood up for the right thing and stood up against the wrong things in society. He was I would say anti-establishment, but the fact that, well, some see him as that, as anti-establishment, but the fact is that he stood up against what he felt was wrong. There was racism in America, and he felt a pinch of racism. In fact, some of the motivations, according to account of who he became and how he became, from changing his name from initially when he was named Cassius Marcellus Clay, born in January 17, 1942 in Louisville, Kentucky, to Muhammad Ali, was part of that reason why he changed his name, racism. He felt a pinch of it and was really averse to it. So, and of course, another catalytic moment in his history, in his life, was that of being witness, not direct witness, but being. It was in a world when this whole thing happened. This Emmett Till, the murder of Emmett Till in Mississippi, and that transformed the young Cassius Clay into becoming this convert to Islam from Christianity, and from changing his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali. So we can see how things shaped him over the years. And then, of course, he had this incident with the United States military where he refused to be inducted to go fight in Vietnam, claiming some of his most famous quotes out there that he had no quarrel with the Viet Cong, the Vietnamese people, and he had no reason for him to go take a gun shooting at the Vietnamese out there because they didn't discriminate against him. He was not going to fight nobody's war on that basis. So that's who Ali was. I mean, then of course it became this dominant, towering figure in boxing history. Won the heavyweight championship several times over, till this epic moment in Brazil. I mean, in Zaire happened. We know Foreman was really not of that same model, that same ilk. Foreman, born and raised in Marshall, Texas, grew up in Houston, Texas, and where he, according to account, was also he was a troubled youth, according to historical fact, and eventually ended up becoming a boxer and relocating to California, and went to the 1968 Olympics, and also became a gold medalist at the Olympics. And out of the Olympics, he came out and became this dominant heavyweight that knocked out Joe Frazier, beat Ken Norton, and all these guys out there. And eventually the clash between him and Ali was only but a matter of time before that happened, you know. On the other hand, Don King was he's still alive. God forbid. Excuse me, Mr. King, if you ever happen to listen to this. But Don King was I guess it's been said to be this character that was not necessarily, the preferred individual for people to deal with, because he had a checkered past with some history with crime, and he had served time and came out. But the man became this standout boxing promoter. He became this standout man that could pull the necessary strings and make things happen. So he had a stable of boxers that worldwide, and great names out there who were the envy of. And he would be when you talk about his names, and you can imagine the caliber of boxers that he was able to manage over time, because of the fact that he was such a mover and shaker. He could make things happen. He could move and make things happen. He engineered and pushed for Rumble in the Jungle, linking up with the government and the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Zaire at the time, and was able to pull the string so to have President Mobutu sign on to be the one that was going to host the Rumble in the Jungle. And it did happen. President Mobutu was able to pony up the $10 million. Now, there are also accounts that the late Colonel Muammar Gaddafi was also involved in this fight, because he was part of the putting the necessary funding together to make sure the event came to Africa. So these are things that have not been told out there, but it's also a known fact that these were people who played a role in bringing the event to Africa. So these are the characters who were involved in the fight to the Rumble in the Jungle, which became this epic moment in boxing history, and eventually changed the face of sports overall, because now we'll look after Rumble in the Jungle. We'll start to look at other events that eventually happened after that. We'll see Thriller in Manila, which followed in the year after, in 1975, and then beyond that, it was other boxing events, that involved Mike Tyson and the like, and then obviously it eventually went on to involve other sports like the NFL, the NBA, and these all came of age by virtue of this broadcast thing that had happened. Today we have billions of dollars. The sports industry itself is over $700 billion. It's worth over $700 billion and growing, and we see how significant that is to the world, and thanks in part to what happened at Rumble in the Jungle. And this is a caveat to the whole thing that I'm saying here, that I'm speaking about here, because it's not just necessarily, wasn't just a boxing match that took place in Africa, but this is something, like I said, that had a significance in terms of the commercial value that it brought to sports, what it meant to sport, what it created. And not that there were not, commercially viable sporting event before this, but this one changed the dynamics. This one brought into play pay-per-view and all of that. So it changed the narrative in terms of the way sports was being viewed. So today we have events like, great event, got a great boxing event, the MMA, which is out there, and then of course, like I said, recently with the Sub 2 Hour Marathon event sponsored by Ineos, which Eliud Kipchoge ran, and they captivated the world. So we see how these are things that have helped to transform and shape the world in terms of the commercial value of sports. Sports is something that people invest their time and energy in and resources. So there has to be a return on investment. So this was one of those moments that helped to change and shape things. And we saw how TV became a viable and very, very valuable aspect of sports. And today, that's evolved, and with the internet now we have streaming and all of that. So we see how this is transforming. So we can say rumble in the jungle.